Good evening and welcome to Point Blank. Tonight on the program, it's my pleasure to introduce a university don of the Radicali School, Dr. Bala Usman, a reader in history at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Good evening.
Thank you.
Bala, you're welcome to this program.
Thank you very much.
I think it's a pleasure having you on a program like this. I know it's quite difficult tracking you down. I think we want to be very appreciative of the opportunity of having you here. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Point Blank, I don't know whether you've watched it, but it's a nationwide program where we bring in very articulate persons to talk about matters of the moment. I know you fall into this class, and I'm sure Nigerians would like to hear you today. We'll spend some 50 minutes talking with you on national issues. Just before then, I think we want to let our viewers have some little background about you. I know that for a very long time you have been in the university system. And when I introduced you as reader in history, I know many of your admirers will remember that this is one articulate intellectual who has refused to answer the name professor. What's your problem with that name?
Well, it's simple. The professorship has been made into a chieftaincy title. And if I'm interested in chieftaincy title, I'll go and get one in Katsina, not in EBU. That's the problem. Now, I'm sure it will be improved in the future, but it's too late for me. I'm due to retire in 10 years' time. So I don't see why I should. There's nothing much in a title. A professor is a professor by the quality of his teaching and research, not by the title. And Nigerians are so obsessed with titles. So I think it's necessary for someone to draw the line and say that, look, there's not much in a title. In many countries, in some countries in the world, even doctor is not used. The highest, the most advanced academics are just called Mr. This and that. And even here, in our own tradition, Shehu Damfode was called Malam. It's only some people instead of calling him Shehu. And Malam is a much greater level of respect. So quite honestly, I think I found that in ABU problems arose, with promotions and all that. And I took a position, and that position was not supported by the visitor and the authorities over some promotion. So I felt, why should I get myself, having taken an earlier position, change it? Particularly as it's too late. I'm too old to look for titles now.
Well, thank you. You see, you are raising very, very fundamental issues. Our viewers, I'm sure, would like to know, when all these things you have said, are you saying that to be a professor in a Nigerian university is not worth the value of what a professor is internationally?
The point I'm saying, I've been involved in teaching research in Nigerian University. And I was a member of the council, member of various committees, Senate, head of department, and member of the NPC. So there was a lot of discussion about how does ABU develop. And I was part of that, even as a postgraduate student. And I and others, following on the footsteps of our teachers like Professor Abdullahi Smith, insisted that while ABU should reflect its catchment area, we should not appoint northerners who are not qualified. That we should attain the highest standards in the world. Yes. When I was in council, we fought that out. There was a proposal that we should not even go for external examination. A committee was set up. We refused. After I left for Kaduna as secretary to government, they went ahead and promoted a number of people. I don't want to go into personalities now. And that was wrong. When I challenged that promotion, they tried to dismiss me from the university. A kangaroo court was established, but it could not work because the government dissolved the council. Then I was hauled before a tribunal, charged with inciting students. So I gave a memo on academic corruption, which undermined the university, which led to the crisis we have been in and which we are still to get out of. The main thing about education is standards. Standards to pupils. The teachers must set standards, both ethical, moral, and academic, professional. Now, if you undermine standards at the highest level of the university, at the level of the Senate, and you appoint people who should not be there, and these people can hold administrative posts. Anybody can be a VC and head of department. So this is the argument we had. So when the whole thing turned around, then they came and said I should go and be a professor. So I said, why waste my time? See, so I believe things will improve. ABU has been recovering. And certainly there are professors who deserve it. I'm not saying the professors are worthless. Many of our colleagues are really professors, excellent academics anywhere in the world. But I'm saying the specific circumstances which led to what happened. And the same people who are running around asking me to be a professor now are those who did not support the position that you should only be a professor if you have reached the standard which was originally established in ABU. Isha Audu came as a deputy associate professor. He didn't just rush to be a professor. He continued doing his work in the teaching hospital. When the Shah became a professor, you could respect him. When you see Professor Abdullahi Smith teaching or talking, he is a professor. But all sorts of characters became, and now they want me to join them. Why should I? I have no time for that.
Well, thank you, Bala. How extensive is this corruption in the academic field that you have talked about? Is this restricted to ABU or Nigeria, or do you think this is a trend globally?
There is a global trend, the commoditization of knowledge. Capitalism has reached such a stage that so everything is knowledge. Right now, they are even trying to make life, patent life, genes. Everything is knowledge. Everything is for sale. So this is a general trend in the world. But in Nigeria specifically, there has been a collapse of standards in general. It is the universities have been part of that collapse. See, and I think it is not purely external, it's also internal. Externally, the governments have not helped us. They've appointed councils who cannot measure up to standards. The councils that have been appointed have not been measured up to standards. Appointment of vice chancellors has been reduced to appointing people who can lobby. The NUC has become an octopus, a sort of huge thing. If you go to that building, under Aminu Jibrin and successors of Aminu Jibrin, they became too powerful. And small boys who become directors in NUC go around loading it over VCs because the VCs themselves are not straight. Then we in the university, that's our fault. We also do not abide by the old idea that it is not enough to have a first class or second class upper degree to be an academic. You must have an aptitude for a teacher, for teaching and research. You see, everybody has an aptitude. This is what I keep saying. Some people are very good at administration, some people are very good at management, economics, military, and all that. So when you get a teacher, now what happened in Nigeria was that under successive military regimes, the shortest cut to be a commissioner or a permanent secretary or a director is to have a PhD. So everybody rushed for PhD. These boys are not interested in teaching. Teaching is very particular. It requires a certain character, a certain attitude towards life, a certain attitude towards other people, a certain attitude towards knowledge and truth. Now, so a lot of characters jumped into university to get PhD. They want to get PhD. The moment they get PhD, they either want to become professors or they want to become commissioners or ministers. So these boys kept fighting. And then the outside world did not help. I mean, the visitors and the chancellors and all that, they also went along. Like this craze for titles. All these military chaps and other politicians want to be doctor this, doctor that. We said, okay, no problem, but let us maintain our standards. So you see, it's not just university. We have our own internal problems because of the attitude of getting people who are not really interested in teaching and research, who are primarily interested in the title. Now, once you do that, then there's a problem because teaching is difficult. Research is difficult. And so this is the whole thing.
Well, thank you. I want to find out whether you haven't actually made a lot of contribution to these problems you are raising, because people like you don't want to be vice chancellor. And I wonder if the wrong persons are vice chancellors, they will never produce the kind of academic curriculum you want to see in the university system. Why would you not want to be a vice chancellor? Because I did not join the university to be an administrator. If I wanted to be an administrator in 1970, I would have joined the federal government. And I'd become a PAMSEC or secretary to government or ambassador. I joined the university to teach and research. I had that option. Most of my family expected me to join administration. This is what we usually do. But I didn't join administration. I joined to do teaching and research. Now, in the first place, vice chancellors don't set curriculum. Senate does. You see, in a serious university, the running of the university is in the hands of the academics, not in the hands of any administrator. The vice chancellor is generally a coordinator. Public relations coordination. It is the departments, the academics in the department, the faculty board, the research board, the Senate, which run a university. But in Nigeria, vice chancellor has become chief executives. I've always told them that it's not nothing like a chief executive in a university. Because chief executive means he can take decisions and say, that's it. He can't. Vice chancellor can't say, I approve a course or I admit someone like that. No. So in the first place, we should see what a vice chancellor is. A vice chancellor is supposed to be sort of, given our state, certainly has to be somebody who can provide leadership of some form. But leadership is provided by the departments, by the professors. Now, the leading professors in the university and the leading academics and the young boys who are coming up, because a university is not just a matter of the older ones, the younger boys coming up, work as a team to really decide the academic direction of the university. I've played that role. I've also done my job in the administration. I was head of the department for 5 years. Most of these, a lot of students, I recruited them, I taught them. I was in Senate, I was in council, I was in all the committees,
that are required. Even recently, when Mama Kotogola was there, I was chairman of the committee writing the white paper. We wrote about 45 on every aspect of the university. In fact, they said I was running I was running the university at that time. Right now, Abdullahi is my student. He's the vice chancellor. We work closely with Abdullahi. But I don't see why I should go and sit down and do things where I want to do teacher research. I've not written the books I want to read. I've not read the books I want to read. I've not learned the languages I want to learn. So why should I go and sit down and be running around? Why not come to Abuja and sit in some big office?
Thank you. Yes. I mean, listening to you, one gets the impression that the position of vice chancellor is not as important as it has been placed.
Why, it has become important.
Why are your colleagues fighting to be vice chancellor?
It has become important because of the corruption in Nigeria, which has made chief executive important, even in banks. The MD is just MD. He's member of a board. The executive directors are very important. But the concentration of power in the presidency, they say the president. I'm glad Obasanjo said he doesn't want to be commander-in-chief. Of course he's commander-in-chief. Why do you have to call him every day he's commander-in-chief? He's the president. Now he's Federal Executive Council meeting. They decide collectively. What has happened is that there's been the erosion of collective responsibility. The university is run as a committee system. That has been eroded. Now, it's not just academics who are responsible. It's part of a general decline in Nigeria. But I blame us more because being those who are engaged in knowledge, we should show the light. We should be different. Not different, wildly different, but certainly we should not sink in. But it sunk in everything VC does. Look, checks. VC signs checks. Even Mama, I was telling him, why do you, General Kontagora, why do you have to sign a check? I told him, you can't know, you will sign 200 checks. He doesn't know, he's not controlled. I said, in a big bank, they deal with billions of dollars. The MD doesn't sign any checks. Control, systems of supervision and control is what you need. They sign checks, they see people on admission, they see all that. No, there is policy, coordination, public relations. That's what they're supposed to do. And the others to do it. So we have to restore the system as it was. One of the reasons I didn't leave the university is that I found a university which was very good. I learned a lot again from it. And I felt I cannot leave it when it's in a very bad shape. I thought I should stay and restore it. And restore the university system. And I think it can be restored. As part of the restoration of our country, it can be done.
Thank you. Still within the university system, I know that you are a distinguished scholar in history. And if you look at the trend these days, you hardly find students who want to read history. And while everybody is clamoring to read law, medicine, and all that,
well, it's to do with
history is dying. What is wrong?
Well, it's the almost immediate response is it has to do with employment. Many people don't want to go into teaching. If you restore teaching, you see, if you restore teaching to the status that it used to occupy, people will go and reach the humanities, the social sciences, and the basic sciences. People don't want to read mathematics. They don't want to read biology. Nigeria can't develop without biology, without mathematics, without history, without the basic science and the basic arts. But because of the way the system has gone, because of the way that we are not only a dependent capitalist economy, but a dependent capitalist economy in permanent crisis, the productive areas who produce the education, geography, history, languages, biology, chemistry, physics, they don't go. Because everybody says he wants his son to go and do profession and make money. And the fault is with the government. It's the goal with the governments because they don't give teaching the status it deserves. Why should somebody who goes and becomes an accountant earn more than a teacher? The teacher is more important. When we were old, when we were young, you know that. So it's not just history, it's physics too. Many departments of physics, there's only one. Why will Nigeria go without physicists? Biology. I think there's one university, one physics student. So it's not just history. Now, for the specific case of history too, there is a decision taken in 1970, certainly for the northern states, that we should abolish, and I think for Nigeria as a whole, to abolish history and geography in primary schools and substitute them with social studies. A decision taken largely under American influence. For whatever reason, we fought against it. I was teaching in Balewa College then. I represented North Central State. And I and others fought against it. We said, people should start running history from primary school and geography. They must know where they come from, their background, how the world has come to be what it is. Even in the most elementary level, they must know their country and their villages and their areas. They said, no, social studies. Who is your father, who is mother? A lot of pap. Now, in America, they still insist on American civilization being taught everywhere in the world. So that has undermined history because people don't even junior secondary school, they've abolished it. So at the Congress of Historical Society of Nigeria, where I gave the DK Memorial Lecture yesterday, they are pushing for that. But this is not just our responsibility. It's the government. Obasanjo wants to restore Nigeria. You cannot restore Nigeria unless you restore the status of history, geography, language, physics, mathematics, biology. And teachers must be people who can compare favorably with any accountant, any banker. Why should a banker be earning 50,000 naira and a teacher in a secondary school teaching history? Not. Why? In other countries, it's not like that. You can't go to Britain or China or anywhere and find that gap. When a university lecturer, let's say lecturer 1, his take-home fee is not more than 15,000. His colleague in the bank is probably earning 80. And he's teaching physics. Without that physics, your country can't go anywhere. Or history. Without history, you have no direction. You have no country, in fact. So the issue is not history. People are avoiding all the basic disciplines, like mathematics. They don't want to do mathematics. Why can our country go without mathematics? Even English language, you go to these English departments, they likely do literary studies, not language. So some of us have been advocating that every university must have a department of English as a second language, since we've decided to use English and other languages. The literary studies should be given its own position as part of cultural studies or whatever. So these are the problem. Not so much history, but everything that is basic has been degraded. What is not important, which is tertiary, because this is primary. Teachers in these things are primary. So unless you restore teaching of the basic subjects and education to its status, then the country cannot go anywhere. And so it's not a matter of history.
Well, from what you've said so far, particularly in relation to the numerical strength of these departments, you want students of physics in a whole university, maybe 2 students of biology in another university. Don't you think there's need to restructure the university system?
It's not that
don't we have too many universities?
It is the teachers you have to restructure. It is the employment you have to restructure. If today a physics graduate will earn as equal as a banker, as a bank manager, they'll go and do it. Do you get my point? There are physics graduates who finish and go and do MBA and go and work in a bank.
Okay.
So the problem is not in the university. The problem is the employment. That's why I've been criticizing this PDP government, national federal government. They talk of restoring education. You can't restore education outside a framework of a national development plan, which is an incomes and prices policy, which provides a rational structure of wages and salaries. You get my point?
Yeah.
You must rationally rate wages and salaries. You can't say somebody like you here in NT, because you're working in NT, somebody working for IT will earn 10 times more than you do while you're doing the same work. It's not fair. You must have a rational policy, but because they're afraid of this IMF World Bank, they shy away from it. So it's all ad hoc. But you cannot get people to do physics and mathematics unless you give them remuneration. And that is a national policy. It's not a matter of the market. Nigeria must have mathematicians. Otherwise, we're finished. We must have biologists and microbiologists and biochemists. Otherwise, we're finished. Who teach our children? So you just have to pay them, whether the market likes it or not.
In your own perception, do you think this is the kind of restructuring we need? When you listen to colleagues in politics and all that who talk about restructuring the nation, you think this is the kind of restructuring?
No. The people who are shouting restructuring talk about changing Nigeria from a state which is composed, a federation made up of territorially based states, to a federation made up of ethnically based states. They want to remove the territorial principle, which is tied up with citizenship, national citizenship. That if you are a citizen of Nigeria, you live in any of these states, you can vote there, you have rights to all that you can, although there is this indigenous thing here and there. They want to change that to say that no, states should be based on ethnic groups, and that states should belong to ethnic groups. Now, this is what they're asking for. This is what I treated in my lecture, in my Dickey Memorial lecture. I showed how weak it is. They're not interested in these fundamental issues, how we go into the 21st century. They want us to start fighting the battles of the 11th century, about where there's a border between the Edo and the Orobo. Because once you have these regional units based on ethnic groups, how do you draw the border between Edo and Yoruba? Where does Lagos belong? Who established Lagos? Once you do that, you're going to fight the battles of the 18th century, 19th century. So these people are taking us backwards, while what we should do is to move forward. Why don't we have physics teachers? Why don't you have mathematics? Why aren't all our children in school? This is what we have to address. That restructuring is in my way, retrogression.
Can one deduce from what you have said that you don't support this call for a
No, I don't only not support
conference?
it. I don't not only support it. I think it's irrational. It's born out of fear. You see, what I will explain why it's irrational, then I will explain the fear. The Sovereign National Conference idea and the whole idea of restructuring, which AD and the other tribal organizations are advocating, it is irrational because it is not based on any evidence. For example, Professor Wole Soyinka, I know he's a fiction writer. It is not known to tell lies. But he has gone to Canada and said Nigeria, the component units of Nigeria, he's been saying it all over the place. The component units of Nigeria, of the Nigerian Federation, are ethnic groups. Since when? The component units of Nigeria Federation have never been ethnic groups. At independence on the 1st of October 1960, there were 3 regions and a federal capital territory. They argue that the negotiation between Nigerians and with the British was done by ethnic groups. It was not done like that. You see, the Constitutional Conference, the first one, which by the time the British decided that they have to get out by 1950, virtually after the Eva Valley massacre, which was commemorated very well a few days ago, the British started the Constitutional Conference in Ibadan. The units of representation were districts, provinces, and regions. NCNC wanted to contest as a political party. The British refused. I think NCNC boycotted, which was unfortunate. When the conference came, the Ibadan conference, that was based on regional, district, and provincial representation, not ethnic. Any Nigerian living in any district, province, or region could come. If Zik had contested, he would have come in for Western region because he was living in Lagos, as he did in 1951. He won an election from a Lagos seat and was going to be the leader of the majority party in the Western Regional Parliament. Subsequent constitutional conferences were made up of representatives of political parties, not ethnic groups, not even regions. NEPO went with NCNC, NDC went with NPC, Niger Delta Congress, Action Group UNBC. All of them went to their allies across. There are regional parties, but the national system of alliances worked. So it's a lie to say that Nigeria... Now let's go back further. These so-called component units did not even exist before Nigeria. As D.K. showed, and I quote him, and he's one of the most distinguished historians of the 20th century anywhere in the world. This is what I pointed out. People in Nigeria don't appreciate how important D.K. is. But he is outstanding. If you go to other parts of the world, they speak of him so highly. But Nigeria, because of whatever slavish mentality, he's not celebrated in CNN. They don't think highly of him. D.K. pointed this out in his last book, that the Igbo nationality is a product of the 20th century. So is the Yoruba nationality. This is not saying that there are not people who spoke dialects of the language that has now become SY, standard Yoruba. No, but as a nationality, like Hausa, the name Hausa used to be applied to people living in the West. What others call themselves is Katsinawa, Kanawa, Zegi, Mutanen, Daura, and all that. These names are developed as a result of the colonial experience. Ogoni is a colonial identity. Orobo is a colonial identity. Even Ijo is a colonial identity. Fulbe is a bit older, but it's complex because there are so many different types of Fulbe. This idea in Nigeria says that Fulbe is a tall man with a white skin with nose. It's nonsense. You go to Senegal, you go to Sudan, you go to Mali. Fulbe is because of migratory habits, they are different. And even the dialects of the Fulbe language are different. Many people who are called Fulani because of they come from certain social classes, particularly in houseland. So the point I'm making is that the British did not conquer tribal entities. They conquered territorial groups. When the independence came, it was not won back by tribal groups. It was won by West African, and national organizations. If the Ijo had fought the British and recovered the Niger Delta as an Ijo national liberation movement and restored their sovereignty, there is nobody who can come and contest their sovereign rights over that territory. But they did not. The Ijo chiefs, like chiefs elsewhere, supported the British. They were making their own chukuchuku here and there, but they supported the British. People who fought for independence were Zik, who people compare with others like Sardauna Awolowo, but he's not of their level. Zik was a teacher to Nkrumah. He sent Nkrumah to America. He gave him the letter. He taught Mandela. I mean, Mandela, if you go to other parts of Africa, they look at Zik somebody. Zik is a world figure. It's just that Nigerians demean Zik. He's great. You read his book, in 1930, when all these people were in school, and they say, Sardauna says it in his autobiography, My Life. He said he wanted to go to Lagos to see Zik. And Awolowo was full of praise of Zik, how he inspired it. But Nigerians now want to remove them as the regional leader. Zik is not a regional leader. He's a leader of Africa, of the continent, and of the diaspora. His book, Liberia in World Politics, is still one of the most brilliant examinations of the economy and policy of an African country and of the global system. So let me go back to the issue I'm saying. It was people like Zik, African Morning Post, West African Pilot, Show Them the Light, then Sholanke, Folake, West African Students Union, then the Nigerian Trade Union Congress, Pa Imodu, and others. Then the Nigerian Students Union, who in fact forced the politicians from the NCNC, they are the ones who fought for independence. This independence, therefore, this sovereignty was restored to the people of Nigeria. That's why the Land Use Act is correct. Sovereignty, the land of Nigeria belongs to the people of Nigeria, because before it was under various independent states, kingdoms, city-states, confederations. The British conquered it and made it a colonial territory. Our movement fought for it, and it came back to us as the people of Nigeria. Sovereignty exercised by the federal government. But this sovereignty does not mean that people do not have occupational rights. A citizen of Nigeria, living in a part of Nigeria, has rights to that place. Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Not sovereign rights.
I get it. Thank you very much. I know that this type of question is going to take so much of our time, bringing the best of history out of you. Thank you very much. We'll take a short break and get back in a few seconds to talk about other issues of national importance. Stay with us.
Our president has promised. Our governors have followed suit. The legislature is primed for the real democratic process. And the Nigerian Television Authority is poised to transmit these democratic actions to your living rooms, highlighting the intricate workings of its fulfilling outcome. Now, NTA Tuesday Live, with opinion leaders and professionals at 10 p.m. every Tuesday. It'll be incisive, analytical, penetrating, daring, and refreshingly fit for the adult mind, packaged to strengthen democratic values. Call in live in open telephone lines and make your individual contribution towards the realization of our collective dream. Genuine democracy, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that's not all. NTA Tuesday Live is a national get-together with the economy, government policies, energy, national reconciliation, health, sports, and addressing every other aspect of our national life. On the network service, NTA Tuesday Live is an interactive national program. You asked for it, and here it is. NTA Tuesday Live, every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Join us.